Well, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, depending upon where you're joining me from, whether you're watching live or the recording. My name is Eric Lofholm, and let me get my slide there. Just fixed one little thing there. Welcome to Being Vision for Business Leaders. We're going to be doing a business training talking about being, and I'm going to share a couple of other non-being ideas of things I've learned being in business over the last 25 years. And I'm very excited to be with you guys today. Thanks for joining us. Um, the way I look at the world, my worldview is if I want to get better at something, go train on it. If I want to become a better cook, go get training on being a cook. If I want to get better at playing chess, go get trained on it. And I've been studying business now for a couple of decades plus and teaching it for a couple of decades plus. And the information I'm going to share with you today, it might create a breakthrough for you. There may be one of these distinctions, or maybe more than one. You're like, wow, I never thought of business like that. And I had never considered being around business until about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, from my involvement with the Ultimate Coach book project. I didn't even know being as a distinction. So everything I've learned about being over the last 2.5 years as I've been applying it in my business, that's all been brand new. And one of the fascinating, amazing, incredible things about ideas is that when you learn a new idea, you have it forever. So even though we're only together today for a short period of time, you could pick up an idea that alters the way that you approach business in the future. I'm going to share an idea that I learned from studying Steve Jobs. It's called the Digital Hub Strategy, and I built the Being movement, my involvement with it, based on this idea from Steve Jobs. And if it wasn't for me learning that idea from Steve Jobs many years ago, we probably wouldn't be here right now. So I learned something, 8 years ago or however long ago it was. And then here we are 8 years later, and we all get to be together on this Zoom. What is being? So depending on who you ask, you're going to get different answers. And to me, it's my idea of being is the position that we're coming from. So right now I'm being service. I'm coming from a position of service. You or I could be frustrated. We could be loving. We could be angry. We could be commitment. And all of this is applicable to our business, right? Like we could be frustrated in our business and we can show up in that way, or we can be optimistic, or we can be visionary, or we can be positive, or we can be an effective leader. And the position we're coming from, in my experience, impacts what shows up in reality. So we want better results. You want to build a world-class team. You want to make more sales. You want to grow your revenue. So we want results to show up in reality. And so our being, what I'm going to suggest to all of you today, is our being influences what actually shows up in reality. The three distinctions of being. We're always being. So I'm not going to teach you how to be today. You already know how to be. You're being all the time. You don't need to have an awareness of being to be. We're always being. We can observe our being. So you can take a look. You can take a look right now at your being. Like when you're learning, one of the things that Steve Hardison teaches us is read the book about you. You might have heard that before. Maybe you haven't heard it before. But there's a very powerful understanding of that idea of read the book about you, because it expands beyond the book, The Ultimate Coach. In other words, you could literally read every book for the rest of your life about you. Now, that's kind of an abstract term, like read the book about you. What does that mean? That means that my idea of read the book about you means you're reading a book and you ask yourself, how can I apply what I'm learning here to my life, to my situation? So the book, The Ultimate Coach, is a book about Steve Hardison. So Steve teaches, instead of reading the book about Steve, read the book about you. And that's where the breakthrough opportunities are. So if we expand the idea beyond the book, read the book about you, read every book about you, and then every training you attend for the rest of your life, like the training that you're on with me right now, attend the training about you. So as you listen to these ideas, ask yourself, could I apply the digital hub strategy, which I'm going to teach you in today's class? Could I apply that to my business? Could I apply the 4-phase distinction that I'm going to teach you today? Is there a way I could use that? Is there a way that I could make a bold declaration in my business? Could I apply that idea? Like my bold declaration about being is my vision for the being movement is every human being on the planet have access to what's on the screen there. My vision is that every person in the world, regardless of the language they speak, understands we're always being, we can observe our being and we can shift our being. And that's as big a vision as you can get. Everybody in humanity. That's a very bold declaration. So as I teach you that a little bit later, you go, could I use the distinction of a bold declaration in my business? And some people will listen to that idea and go, oh, that's just not me. That's too braggadocious. That's too out there. Like, that's not how I do it. And so number 3 on the screen there, we can shift our being. See, a lot of things in life, you've been doing your life for decades. You've been eating certain ways for decades. You've been drinking certain drinks for decades. You've been going to bed at a certain time for decades. You've been doing what you do on social media or what you don't do now for the last decade or so. Like, you have these patterns, and I do too. We all do. We have these patterns of how we do our life. So what Hardison's teaching us is that we can shift our being. So if you're like, well, I don't do that LinkedIn thing. Like some of you, that's your thought. I don't do the LinkedIn thing. I don't like how I look on video. So you can take a look at that. Number 2 on the screen there, we can observe our being. And you can take a look. I don't like how I look on video. So what kind of results would a human being produce if they don't like how they look on video? They would produce the result called, I don't do video. So now in your business, you have no access to a strategy on video that would require that you be on video. There's ways to do video without you being on video. You could have a spokesperson, or there's other things, and we're not going to get into video because that's not my intent today. But here's the idea. You could be here going, I don't do video. And you could choose number 3 to shift your being. And you could create new language around your relationship to video. Or I always hire unmotivated people. So that's who you're being. I'm being somebody who always hires unmotivated people. So you can take a look. Okay, I notice I'm being somebody who always hires unmotivated people. Now you could shift it. See, until 2.5 years ago, I had no access to this. So if in my head, I'm like, well, I always hire unmotivated people, I didn't understand number 3, you can shift your being. So I was stuck with being, I always hire unmotivated people or whatever. So what I'm providing you is an opportunity to put on a different set of glasses and to look at life in a whole different way. Because now in my business, as business things show up, I get to take a look at my being. And we're going to talk about that today. My journey of personal development began with this book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. Some of you know the name Louise Hay. Some of you may even read this book. My journey began in 1988. When did your personal development journey begin? When did you start leaning into learning about type it in the chat right now. How long have you been doing like Tony Robbins or Landmark or coaching or podcasts or watching YouTube videos or reading books or, how long has the journey been for you? Just type it in the chat. I would imagine that there's many of you that have been on this journey now for many, many years. I began in business, and this is a photo of me. Let me get back to, why is it doing that? Let me get rid of that there. And there we go. Now I can see the chat. Decades since the 70s, 26 years, 25 years, 8 years, 1985. That's awesome, guys. 1982. Went to the S training as an 8-year-old. Like, it doesn't surprise me that for those of you on this call, we're all that, right? We all just love learning. So this is a photo of me when I began my sales career, 1992. And I was terrible at selling. And so I leaned in, I started studying sales. And this gentleman became my mentor. He's now my business partner. So if you're familiar with Steve Hardison, Dr. Donald Moyne is a Steve Hardison-like person. Now, there's only one Steve. I'm not saying Dr. Moyne is Steve. Dr. Moyne is Dr. Moyne and Steve. But Dr. Moyne is elite like Steve. And he became my mentor and he taught me sales. So I didn't know anything about being back then. And I became a top producer. And then I went and worked for Tony Robbins. I was employed by Tony. I worked for Tony for 3 years. In the 90s, and then I started Eric Hoffman International, my sales training company. I'm not representing my sales training company today. I'm here representing the Being Movement International. And I worked for Tony for 3 years, learned all kinds of stuff from Tony. I'm endorsed by some of the biggest names for my sales training work. You might recognize Brian Tracy, Les Brown. They both endorse my work. I'm very proud of those endorsements. This is my family. I live in a small town just outside of Sacramento. It's called Rocklin, California. This is my second wife. I have a blended family. If any of you are part of a blended family, it's complicated. So I've got 2 of my kids and 2 of them are hers. And we do the best we can. And I've learned a lot about Being to apply it to family, not our topic today. But Being has really, really helped me with my family. My story as it relates to Being is I was introduced to Being as a distinction when the book came out called The Ultimate Coach in 2021. And prior to the book coming out, I had never heard of Being as a distinction. So I had no access to it. So even though I was being in business, I wasn't consciously aware. I couldn't consciously shift it because there was no awareness. If we're not aware, we have no access consciously. So this is the man who taught me about Being, and through the book and through some coaching with Steve and through the community and the Facebook group, and some of you are part of the Facebook group or you listen to the podcast, and some of you, maybe you're not even sure what I'm talking about because you're not a part of the Being community, and you don't have to be a part of the Being community for you to get value from today's Zoom. So in 2021, I began to create an awareness around Being. So here are some real world applications of Being in business. So just some things that have happened in my business recently. I had a team member who I thought we were going to work together for the next decade. And they came to me and they're like, "Hey, Eric, I want to do my own thing." And it was clear like we were not going to continue. Once I got present to what was happening, we were not going to continue anymore in the way that we were. So how do you deal with that? Right? Like another human being, you're like, we weren't partners, but we were very close in how we were working together. And now they're like, hey, Eric, I want to do my own thing. And you process these feelings. Right. And so what was so great was I have an understanding of being in business. So I got to take a look and I got to really work through it, where when I communicated with this person, I wasn't defensive and I was very patient. It took us a month to work through it, and we worked through it and we got into a really good place. Prior to being, I probably would have felt betrayed. I would have been hurt. I would have made it about me. And with being, I got to take a look at who am I being and process my own feelings, because I had my own feelings about it, and be loving at the same time. Or staff member saying, hey, Eric, I'd like a raise. Right? And then how do I look at that? Who's my being around that request? Or staff members like, hey, I'm short on cash. Can I get an advance? And then I get to take a look at who am I being around that? Or a client who I delivered services to, and then they're making payments to me and then they don't want to pay anymore. I'm requesting that my payments stop because of their, they had a perspective. So then I get to be with that. And so this is happening all day, every day, not just in business. This is happening in your romantic relationship. This is happening with your children, if you have children, or your grandchildren, or your neighbor, or your boss, or your employees, or right? All day long, this is happening. And we've been doing life in patterns for decades. So I was doing life for decades with no awareness of being, and then I would just go into my pattern. Right? Person would do something and I'd go into my pattern. Kind of like one of those toys. You pull the string and the toy starts talking and just go right into my pattern. So being creates this whole new awareness. So today, I'm going to give you some great ideas, some things I'm really excited to share with you. I've already started sharing ideas. I got more ideas to share. And at the very end, Joan Claire, who's my business partner on this project with Being in Business, we have created a mastermind. And we're looking for additional people to join our already established mastermind. And we're having a mastermind around being in business. And so it's a paid program. It's very affordable. And what I've chosen to do around being is really lean in. And I work on my being pretty much every day. So we're looking for people who want to lean into being around business and participate in a mastermind with other business professionals. So at the very end of the training, I'm going to share the details for any of you that are looking for a community around really leaning into business, because maybe you're like I was a couple years ago, you'd never worked on being in business. Or maybe you have been working on it, but you want to lean in even more and you want to get even better at being in business. And what I can honestly tell you in these 4 scenarios on the screen, because of my work I've done on being, I handled those 4. I'm proud of how I handled them. Whereas a younger version of me, I probably wouldn't have been so proud. I would have been embarrassed perhaps. And I'll just tell you one very brief story. Right before I learned about being, I had a staff member who wasn't performing. This is back in 2021, and I let the staff member go. And who I was being when I let her go, I wasn't being loving and compassionate. I was being kind of harsh, kind of, I don't even know exactly the way to describe it, but it wasn't loving. And even though I think we both would have agreed it was time for this person to no longer be a part of the team, my way of being was hurtful. And I wasn't present to that until after I started learning about being, and I went and took a look and I was like, oh man, I didn't handle that very good, handled that very poorly. So nowadays I have far less of those. because of my work on being. All right, so I did some coaching with Steve Hardison. And if you're not familiar with Steve, it doesn't matter as far as what I'm going to teach you right now. In one of the sessions, he taught me this formula, reverse engineer results. And so he said to me, what creates results? Like in business, you want more clients, you want to hire more people, you want more revenue, more profit, you want to decrease turnover. There's all these things we want in business, more referrals, more social media followers, more views on your videos. So there's specific results that we want. And you're probably, type yes in the chat if you feel you're pretty good at goal setting. I would imagine a group like you guys are, you probably pretty much have goal setting down. You're like, Eric, I'm good at getting clear on what I want to have show up in my life. All right. So that's you. Type the word yes in the chat. It's probably most of you. So results, we know the results we want. So Hardison says, what creates results? He wasn't asking me like, what's the answer? He was teaching me. So what creates results, Eric, is action. All results are created from action. I was like, all right. He goes, what's upstream from action? In other words, what creates action? He wasn't asking me to answer. He was asking me to teach me. I go, what's upstream from action? He goes, thought or language. So we're creating with our language. So somebody will come to me on a coaching call and they'll say, I'll say, what do you want to work on today? And they go, well, Eric, I'm inconsistent with my prospecting. I'm a sales coach, right? So people ask me sales stuff, right? So Eric, I'm inconsistent with my prospecting. So if thought or language is above action, what actions would somebody take if they were being inconsistent with their prospecting? They would take inconsistent action and they would produce poor results. In other words, their statement is the problem. They're declaring I'm inconsistent with my prospecting. Like somebody declaring my spouse and I are always arguing. That statement's the problem. Because if I declare my wife and I are always arguing, then what actions am I going to take? We're going to constantly be arguing, and then my results are going to be that. So I don't say my wife and I are always arguing. It's rare for us to argue. Okay, so that doesn't show up in our marriage. Things only exist in language. Somebody said to me the other day, I know you went through some turbulent times. I don't use the word turbulent. I'm like, no, actually, I didn't go through any turbulent times because I don't use that word. It only occurs in language. And then Hardison said, what's upstream from thought or language is being, as in state of being. So shift the being, shift the language, shifts the actions, changes the results. Wow. When he taught me that was a wow. Because I get to take a look at my business and I get to take a look at who am I being and what will that likely create. I get to see if conflict's showing up, who am I being that's creating the conflict? And then I get to decide, do I want to shift that? Do I want the conflict to disappear? You ever meet somebody that has a lot of drama in their life? It's like drama follows them. It's because their being is creating drama. I don't have drama in my life. It's pretty rare because I'm not being drama. So you start looking in business, I keep hiring the wrong people. Who am I being that's creating me hiring the wrong people? I don't have enough cash flow. Who am I being that's creating I don't have enough cash flow? I don't have enough leads. Who am I being that's creating I don't have enough leads? What is the difference between a declaration and an affirmation? We've all been trained on affirmations. You might say affirmations. An affirmation is a statement. I am unconditional love to my kids. And then the next thing you know, I'm yelling at them. So I'm not being unconditional love. I'm just using words. I'm just talking. I'm unconditional love, but I'm not being it. That's the difference. A declaration is a state of being. You're declaring this is who I am. So if I declare I'm unconditional love to my kids, or if I declare I'm the ultimate leader, or if I declare I'm the ultimate student, two of my declarations, I'm declaring, I'm calling forth a state of being to show up in reality. So if you declare, I consistently go to the gym, and then you get on a coaching call with me and you go, Eric, I'm declaring I consistently go to the gym, but I don't go. That's actually the declaration. I declare that I consistently go to the gym, but I don't go. That's the declaration. You're declaring that you declare you're going, but you don't go. So you want to become aware, and we're declaring stuff all the time. A declaration doesn't have to be positive. I'm always arguing with my spouse is a declaration. I'm not good with my money is a declaration. I talked to a guy the other day. He goes, I'm a reluctant leader. That's a declaration. I'm a reluctant leader. So how does a reluctant leader show up? And he's not aware that he's declaring that. So I'm a reluctant leader. On the screen there becomes, I'm a powerful leader. I'm uncomfortable with sales, becomes I embrace sales. You go, but Eric, I don't embrace sales. Hardison teaches you have two dogs, dog A and dog B. Dog A it's kind of got a weird name. The dog's actually named, I'm uncomfortable with sales. Right? So when you tell the dog to come, you're asking the dog to come. I'm uncomfortable with sales, come here. Right? It's kind of weird, right? Or dog B, I embrace sales. So the question is, which dog grows? And you know the answer because you heard this before. Or if you don't know the answer is the dog that you feed. See, you've been feeding yourself thoughts for decades. So when I got in Hardison's office, he goes, give me one of your unuseful thoughts. And I go, I don't fit in. For decades, I'd been saying I don't fit in. And I could trace it back to when I was a kid, but it doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter that I had the intellect to figure out where does the thought come from. It's that I embraced this thought and I started being I don't fit in. So Hardison's like, look, you can be I don't fit in, or you can be people love spending time with me. And Eric, you get to decide. See, I could say people love spending time with me, but I know that's not true, that I really don't fit in. That's what's the truth. Then that's my declaration. Who's in control of your thoughts? You are. Who's the only person that can change your thinking? You are. I can guide you. Hardison was guiding me. I'm guiding you right now, but it's for you to embrace and hold on to whatever thought you choose to hold on to. So Hardison teaches us to have a document. We're not going to train on documents today, but he teaches us to have a document and to read it every day. We're reading the dog B statements. We're creating ourselves as that. So you reach a point where you do embrace it and you realize this is who you are, extraordinary you. See, here's the deal. Most of you on this call, you've been doing this work for over a decade. Even if you're brand new to the conversation, you have an awareness that you can evolve as a human being, that you can create new thinking. If you really get true with it, you're one of the most evolved human beings on the planet. If you really get real with it, there's 8 billion or so people on planet Earth. You are one of the most evolved human beings out of the 8 billion. Not saying you're better. You're not better than anybody because you're more evolved. You're more evolved because you did the work. By the way, I'm drinking black coffee right now. This is and I'm going to tell you why I'm telling you this. And I don't like black coffee. This is I don't have any cream or sugar in here. And that's how I like to have my Starbucks. I like to load it up with cream and sugar. So why am I drinking black coffee? Because my declaration is I drink black coffee. So Eric, why do you drink black coffee if you don't like it? It's a mental toughness exercise. It's a resiliency. I'm strengthening my mental toughness. Basically telling my brain, Eric, you can do anything you want on command. I'm training my brain. You can do it on command. I take a cold shower every day. Why? Because I say so. Why do I do that? To tell my brain you can do anything you want on command. And some of you go, Eric, I could never take a cold shower. That's not true. You just get in the shower and turn on cold and you take a shower. See, there's all these things that you can do, but we don't do them because we've been doing the other stuff for decades. And you have the power to change. You have the power to shift your being. As Hardison would say, only always, especially you. If you can connect with the fact of 8 billion people on planet Earth, most people have never cracked the Think and Grow Rich book. They don't know who Tony Robbins is, or if they've heard of him, they've never studied him. Not as a, like, we're better than them, but how many of you can resonate with the fact that you truly are one of the most evolved human beings? When you look at the 8 billion on the planet, you're in the top 3% as a factual statement. Just type yes in the chat if you're like, yeah, Eric, I get that I am that. Okay. So if you acknowledge that and you realize that, you of all people can create what you want. You have the ability to change of all people, because all these other people, they don't even have any awareness for it. It's not present to them that they can change. So you could have been not good with money your whole life and you could shift it. Like snap your fingers, you could shift it. And you can lean into who you're being around money. You can lean into who you're being around business. You can lean into who you're being around hiring. You can, like right now, you might be afraid to hire a virtual assistant. I really want to expand my business. I want to hire a VA and I'm fearful around it. And so your beingness is preventing you from hiring the VA. You can shift that. You can take action in the face of fear. Action does not require the absence of fear. Action does not require that you're not afraid. Think in combinations. So you've got a scoop of ice cream here, and you got a cone. And then you've got the combination of an ice cream cone. What I'm suggesting is a scoop of ice cream and a cone are different than an ice cream cone. Can you hear what I'm saying there? If I have a dish of ice cream over here, and then I have a cone, I'm snacking on the cone. I'm just eating the cone like potato chips. There's no ice cream in it. That's why we don't eat cones like that. We eat cones with an ice cream cone. Some of you eat the ice cream, you throw the cone away. Some of you eat the cone. But we don't buy cones by themselves. We buy them for an ice cream cone. This is a business idea. Okay, I'm going to tell you something right now. This could shift your whole future. This could change the trajectory of your future, this one idea. So, scoop of ice cream, cone. Scoop of ice cream is a declaration. Cone is a bold business statement. A lot of people are not bold in their language because I know we have a global audience. I can't speak for your country because I'm from America. I know how we are in America. And I don't know, I can't speak to your culture, but it's probably the same where you are. Here in America, our culture does not train us to speak about our greatness. And this is one of the amazing things about Steve Hardison. Is Steve Hardison, who's known as the ultimate coach, and he embraces that. He didn't name himself that, somebody else did, but he embraces that identity. And he speaks about our greatness. So when Hardison talks to me, he'll say, Eric, you lead like Abraham Lincoln. That's a bold statement. Tells Ankush, you're modern Gandhi. That's a bold statement. It's so bold. It's like, I got to really lean into that idea to embrace it. Like Abraham Lincoln? What? So Hardison gives us permission to own our greatness. It's not how most of us were raised. I wasn't raised that way. My dad wasn't speaking greatness to me, not as a criticism to him. It's just, who does that? Very few people do that. So I'm telling my client the other day, she's like Byron Katie, one of my clients who coaches women. Her name is Jerry. She's brilliant. That's what I see in her. That's not how we normally talk. The strangest secret, we become what we think about. So if you think about the fact that you're average and ordinary, that's how you're going to view the world. If I saw myself as average and ordinary, which is how I used to see myself, I would not have declared my vision for the being movement is that all humanity has access to being in the three distinctions of being. I could never utter those words. I wouldn't have the confidence to do it. Whether all of humanity is impacted with being or not, what I can tell you is the statement, my vision is to impact all of humanity with the three distinctions of being and that everyone in the world has access to being. That statement creates differently than I want to have help 100,000 people have access to being, which is still extraordinary. That's an extraordinary vision. 100,000 people access to being, but they create differently. So watch this. This is a photo taken back around 2005 or 6. Two people in this photo built international training companies with my help. And they did it with a bold declaration. They had the courage to declare that they're amongst the best in the world at teaching and coaching. And when they came to the training where I live in Rockland years ago, 20 years ago, basically, nobody had ever heard of them. When I say nobody, very few. So let me show you who two of these people are. That's Shay Brown. Shay Brown is now one of the most powerful speakers in the world today. Shay Brown's built a bigger business than mine. That doesn't matter, but he has. How did he go from this? He had to borrow the money for the plane flight to come and train with me. He went from that to that. That's a wow. Okay. Here's R.V. Robinson. In that photo, guys, if you can, I don't know how close you can see, it's kind of not zoomed in on her. Guys, she's 69 years old. She competes in bodybuilding contests. She was not into her fitness in her 40s. She started running marathons in her 50s, and she started competing in bodybuilding in her mid-60s. She is one of the top public speaking trainers in the world today. That's her in the photo there. How did that happen? This is how it happened. They declared, not like, I'm going to become one of the world's top trainers as an affirmation. They declared it as a state of being. How much does it cost you to do that? Not a penny. Any of you could do this on this call. Take a look, observe your being on your boldness. Some of you know what's going on with Sanyika, and I don't have time to get into the whole distinction about Sanyika, but what I will tell you is this. that video that he has coming out. If you're familiar with it, if you're not familiar with it, then you'll get as much as you can out of what I'm going to tell you right now. He sat on that video for years. Someday I'm going to come out with this video. He got a video, guys, that's coming out in June. It's going to go viral. It's going to change the trajectory of his life. So he was I've got this great video that someday I'm going to do, to I'm launching this video. And all of a sudden, the whole world shifted around him. You go, I want better results in my business. Shift your being. Be bold and courageous. Steve Hardison came to me and said, Eric, you can set up a company for the being movement. Why do you do that? It was out of my being. Who I was being created that. It's no different for me or you or Sanyika. All right. I want to give you one of the most powerful ideas I've ever come across. It's called the Digital Hub Strategy. You can Google Digital Hub Strategy, go do some research on this on your own. Steve Jobs brought this idea into Apple. Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy. So Jobs co-founded Apple. They kicked him out. He went and did a bunch of things, including Pixar. Pixar's Toy Story, Finding Nemo. Pixar IPO'd, which made Jobs a billionaire. They sold Pixar to Disney, which made Jobs a multi-billionaire, if he wasn't already. Well, when Jobs came back to Apple after they kicked him out, Apple was literally on the verge of bankruptcy. And he brought in this idea. And what this is, it's an integrated strategy. So the play is your Mac computer, it works and integrates with your music, your iPod. It works and integrates with your phone, your iPhone. It works and integrates with your tabletop computer, with the cloud, with the apps, with the music, with the this, with the that. So if you're a PC user, you don't have this seamless integration. There is integration, but it's not seamless like this. So Jobs brought this idea into Apple, took them out of bankruptcy, and they became the highest valued company in the world based on the stock price. So I looked at that and I said, how can I apply that to my business? So that's a question for you to consider. How can I apply this to my business? So when the Being Movement came around, I created this. And I created this because I understood this. Had I not studied Digital Hub, I wouldn't have been able to create this because I wouldn't have been aware of it. Everything on that screen now exists. We have a membership website, we have a podcast, we have this, we have a YouTube channel, we have an Instagram, all that. But when I created this, very little of this existed. So this has to do with vision. Looking out into the future at what you want to create and then writing it down. So the seed I want to plant for you, if you choose to, is study Digital Hub. Just Google Digital Hub. I've got a piece of content. You can contact me, Facebook message me or LinkedIn me. I'm the only Eric Offum on the planet. So just Google Eric Offum, find me somehow, some way, and ask me for my content on Digital Hub, and I'll send it to you. I put a 30-minute piece of content together that teaches about this idea. So this is how I built what I built so far. But forget about me. Look at yourself. How can you integrate different ideas in your business, like your email? Can you build an email list, and can that integrate with your podcast? You go, I don't have a podcast. Okay. Can it integrate with your social media? Can it integrate with your website? How could you integrate things together? Because what happens is some people go, I'll just show you an example of this. So if we go to the YouTube channel, Hi, this is Eric Lofholm, and welcome to. So here's the YouTube channel. All right. So here's our most recent video. So this is the entire podcast. And what this does is, let's say you come to the YouTube channel, you watch or what's, I think it's audio only. You listen to this and you see it's episode 87. So that might get you curious and go, oh, I'm going to go back and watch some of the previous episodes. And then if we go to our Instagram, what I'm teaching you right now, this is an integrated strategy. That's what Digital Hub is. Okay, so we're promoting the podcast on Instagram. So why are we doing that? We're doing that because of this image. So you can use your imagination. You can work on your being vision, and you can see, is there any way for you to implement the Digital Hub? I don't know if you can or can't. But I've had some clients, this has created a massive breakthrough in their thinking. I've got two last ideas I want to share with you, and then we're going to wrap up. And I'm going to extend an invitation for you to join Joan Claire and myself to continue this conversation about being in business. Join our mastermind for those of you that want to lean in and learn more about this and work on your being in business. So I developed a way of thinking from primarily from Jay Abraham. Jay Abraham was my guide on this. And he's talking about long-term strategic planners is an aspect of having success in business. So I started thinking in decades. And I committed to Steve Hardison and to the community that I'm going to lead the Facebook group for the next 20 years. So who am I being in making that commitment? I'm being committed and I'm being plant my flag. So it's something for you to consider in your business. Because some people are being dipped their toe in the water in their business. They're showing up as being dipped their toe in the water, and then their customers and prospects and clients and joint venture partners and employees are responding to that person being dipped their toe in the water. It's like if a business right now, if there's uncertainty if the business is going to continue, the employees of that company are going to react to the business being uncertain. They're like, oh, well, maybe I got to go find somewhere else to be. So your commitment and how you show up in the world, it 100% makes a difference in how people respond to you. Now, anybody can be committed in your fitness, in your marriage, in your spiritual life, in your business. So you take a look and you go, how am I doing in my commitment level? And you're like, oh, wow, I'm being dipped my toe in the water in my fitness. No wonder I'm not taking action going to the gym. I'm going through the motions in my marriage. No wonder I'm not going on date nights. You know, I sent my wife a text this morning, and we've been married together. We've been 9 years now. And my last two messages to her were, yes, my love, all capitalized. My is capitalized and love is capitalized. Because I want her to feel I'm paying attention to the detail. And then she had a second request, and I said, thank you, love. Capitalize the word L. It's a little thing, but it's an example of not going through the motions. Because my wife's going to respond to who I'm being in my marriage. My employees are going to respond to who I'm being as a leader. So this is a document I created in 2004 for my sales training company. It's like a 10-page plus document. And I wrote out the next 10 years of my business. So create your vision and write it down. One way for you to be stronger with vision is you put your vision together and you write it down. I'm gonna give you one last tool and then we're gonna wrap up. I'm gonna give you two last tools. Yeah, we got time for two last tools. So I'm gonna show you an Excel spreadsheet that I created. Anybody could do this, all right? So this is 2036. In that year, I'll be 66 years old. And these are my assets. And these are the projected values of those assets in 2036 based on inflation, appreciation, growth of the asset. So 2036. And then I did it to 2037. I'm showing you this because you could do this. Any of you on this call could get an Excel spreadsheet, put in the year, put in how old you are, put in your assets, and put in your projections. And you go, but Eric, I don't have any assets. Maybe you've never invested before. So that's something to take a look at. Let me lean in and really start learning about money. Okay, so I've got this guy, 2038. I got this all, look at how far out I go. Okay, I'm not showing you this to impress you. I'm showing you this to role model for you what you could do. Because anybody could do it. It costs me nothing to do this. I go all the way out to 2080, age 110. Most people don't think like that. But anybody could. And what this does, this motivates me to make my business more profitable so I have more profit so I can take that money and I can invest it. And I can buy more stocks and I can buy more real estate. To me, wealth building is connected to my business. I want to make my business more profitable so I can invest more. And I have a vision for this. And I want to show this with you to inspire you, to help you, so you can see, yeah, I can think in the future, decades if I choose to. So the last thing I want to teach you, call it the 4 phases. So phase 1, I'm going to put this in the Zoom chat, is now to the next 6 months. Phase 2 is 6 months to 2 years. Phase 3 is 2 years to 5 years. And phase 4 is 5+ years. So you can take an aspect of your business and you can work on your vision. We're going to grow the vision muscles. So I'm working on my YouTube channel. This is not about YouTube. This is about this idea of the 4 phases. You can do this for an email list. You can do it for clients, number of clients you have. You can do it for your website. You could do it for your product development. You could do it for the books you're going to write. So phase 1, I just made this up right before our session today. Launch a YouTube channel in phase 1. So that's now to the next 6 months. Get 50 subscribers and publish 5 videos. I'm like, okay, I can see that. Phase 2, sticking with YouTube, now building on 50 subscribers and publishing 5 videos and launching the YouTube channel. Now, from 6 months to 2 years, I'm going to have 250 subscribers and I'm going to publish a total of 50 videos now. And then in phase 3, I'm going to grow it to 2,000 subscribers and 400 videos. And then in phase 4, I'm going to have 10,000 subscribers and 4,000 videos. And what this does for me is it creates a clear path of how I can create this. So it's not overwhelming. So this is just a simple way of planning that can help you strengthen your vision muscles. So what I'd like to do right now is extend an invitation for you to continue on the conversation with Joan Claire and myself. We have it's called Being in Business Mastermind. This mastermind is for people who are in business, people like yourselves. So we meet on the 1st and 3rd Tuesday. So a week from tomorrow is our next meeting. It's at 10 a.m. Pacific. It's a 90-minute group meeting that Joan Claire and I lead with the other members. We have 4 months remaining in the mastermind. So those of you, and To register for the mastermind at the end of my invitation right now, you'll request an interview with me. And you and I will get on a call, Zoom or a phone call, and we'll talk about it. I want to make sure it's the right program for you. And if after you and I both determine it's the right program, then you would be able to join our already existing mastermind and participate in the remaining 4 months. When you shift your being, you create the possibility to shift your staff, your vendors, your joint venture partners, your clients. You can shift your entire company. So that's what we're talking about here, is you participating in a mastermind to give you tools to shift your entire company. During this mastermind, you are going to grow you. You're also going to gain clarity on your destination and how you can get your team aligned behind a common vision and mission. You'll learn how to incorporate your business into your document, which we didn't cover today, but it's a set of I am statements of who you're being, your declarations, consciously creating your being. So we're going to teach you how to integrate the document with your business, how being in business can help you achieve better business results. And then we have a whole section on the collaborative way process, which we didn't get into today. My partner, Joan Claire, is an expert on that. And we bring in a whole set of distinctions on the collaborative way, which is discussed in the book, The Ultimate Coach. What's included is 4 months of being in business training, 2 90-minute calls a month. And the structure of those calls are 30 minutes of training followed by 30 minutes of masterminding, followed by 30 minutes of Q&A. And we record the sessions if you can't make them live. So the possibility here is for you to lean into being in business and literally change the trajectory of your future. We also are going to be doing a 1-day training for our mastermind partners. It's an all-day being in business training. We'll do that over Zoom. The program comes with an hour of coaching, one-on-one, and we have a WhatsApp group chat. One of the bonuses we're offering is if you have a key person in your business, a partner, salesperson, an assistant, they can do the program with you at no additional cost. The investment is $15,000, at least that's what we're going to charge in the future. Once we have the case studies to demonstrate the value of being in business, because this is Joan Claire's in my first being in business mastermind. So in the future, when we do future masterminds and we have the case studies to support it, that's what the fee is going to be. We're limiting the mastermind group to 12 participants. We'll be adding participants until we reach a max of 12. So the investment that we're offering is to participate in the program for a one-time fee of not $15,000, but only $3,000. We also have a payment plan of 7 payments of $500. So it's either $3,000 or 7 payments of $500. To request an interview, you're going to email me or call or text me, and I'll put this in the Zoom chat. When you request your interview, you're not committing to the program. You're just saying, hey, Eric, I'd like to have a conversation. And we can talk about your business goals and dreams. I'll answer any questions you have, and we can make sure that this is the right fit for you. So Joan Claire is here, my partner on the program, and I'm going to bring her into the conversation if she has anything that she would like to share before we wrap up. So Joan Claire, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Nice to see you all here. Thanks for being here. I guess I just want to say, like, so far in our mastermind, we've had some really great insights emerge in the dynamic and the synergy of the people already in there because they're all in business. And I think I've seen it's being really powerful for them to look at who they're being in the business context because, you know, you might ask yourself, where else in your life do you have a community where you're really looking at who you're being in your business? And I think that can be really powerful to have that container and structure to look from that angle, because maybe you're an ultimate coach group and different platforms, but this is a group where we're really focused on who we're being in our business. And there's a lot of training as well with the collaborative way and Eric's brilliance from years in sales training and vision and so forth. So I hope you'll consider joining us. It'd be delightful to have more people in there, more brilliance to just share amongst ourselves. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you, John Claire. And, I know we're at the top of the hour, so I'm just going to make this short with my final share of the day. When you look at your business and you look at what's possible, some of you can grow your business hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in revenue. Some of you can grow your business millions of dollars a year in revenue. And there may be one or two people on this call right now watching live or on the replay that could grow your business by 10 million or more in annual revenue. So when we get better in business, there's huge, huge upside. And I've been working on my business skills now for several decades, and I have loved what I have learned so far about being in business. And it literally has shifted how I handle things. I gave the 4 examples earlier in the Zoom, and I showed up with those 4 examples differently than how I would have had I not leaned in and worked on my being in business. Joan Claire and I are excited to work with those of you that want to go deeper. This is extremely affordable professional business training. It's a wonderful mastermind, and I'd love to have a conversation with those of you that would like to have that conversation. One last final thing for those of you that request your interview now, I'm going to include an additional hour of coaching. So you'll get 2 hours of one-on-one coaching with this offer, 1 hour with Joan Claire, my partner, and 1 hour with myself. So just send me a text or an email now if you'd like to request an interview, or send me an email to the email address on the screen, or call or text the number on the screen, and we can set up an interview. Thanks for joining. I'm hopeful that you got some great ideas today. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.